In the previous video, we spent all our time on the board, looking at each individual piece, drawing it out, figuring out, okay, why do we need this? Why do we need this? All with the goal of launching your website, and with the first piece being the server. Well, in this video, we're going to do the nuts and bolts. We're going to type and we're going to click and we're going to get to the point where you have a server. But I want to cover a couple things before we get into the weeds. First of all, the server. I talked a little bit about what a server is in the last video, and you're still thinking, hey, Rob, a server is a scary term. It is what hackers use. It's what some $1 million engineer at Google uses. That's not something that I do. That is not true. By the end of this video, and it's not a very long video, you will have a server and you will know how it works. Now, you won't be a master. You won't know everything that it can do. You won't be ready to go get make a living as a server guy. But it is the most gratifying and satisfying thing in the world to take control of your destiny. It is such an incredible feeling when you have your own server that you can SSH into, that you can control. It is such a good feeling, okay? So we're going to get over that, and this video is going to take the longest because we have to interact with AWS. That's who's going to provide our stuff, okay? You may not know what AWS is. In fact, a lot of you probably don't. It could be that some of you know more than I do. Maybe some of you have more certifications than I do. Whatever the case is, I'm going to talk about it real quick here. AWS stands for Amazon Web Services, and this was created in 2006, though I'm going to put 2009 because I don't remember hearing anything until 2009, at least not that it was mainstream. What is it? Well, you're Amazon, okay? You're Amazon.com, because that's what you think of when you think of Amazon. It's not Amazon Web Services. You think about Amazon.com, the place where you go and buy stuff. If your website goes down for, let's say, 10 minutes, is that a big deal? Yes, that is catastrophic. That is the equivalent of Walmart or whatever retail store that big retail store that you know of or go to. What if they kicked everybody out of their building, out of the store for 10 minutes and locked the doors? What would happen? Would that be a big deal? Well, sure, some people would stay in the parking lot and just wait for them to open the doors again, but most people are going to leave. They're going to be annoyed, or they were going to do an impulse buy and now they come to their senses and they leave, or they're going to come back later and they never do. There's so many sales would be lost if that happened. That's exactly what was happening to Amazon.com. The website goes down and it is a catastrophic loss. So what did they do? Well, they put together AWS, which was this crazy system. And we're not gonna. This isn't a masterclass in AWS, but just so that you kind of understand it, there are different regions, and so I'm going to put R on here for region. There's one like in Northern Virginia. There's one in East Asia. There's one in Brazil, and so on. And they put together this incredible network so that no matter what happens, the site almost certainly will never go down for even a second. These are all connected, and wherever you happen to be in here, we'll draw you right here. You're connected to that one. That one goes down. Oh, no big deal. We'll connect you over here. You won't even notice anything happen. This was awesome. This was totally revolutionary, and this is essentially what became known, I'm going to call it the cloud. Now, it's not fair because there were other cloud providers too and did cool things first. Why AWS though? Well, for one thing, they have so many servers, it's almost free for them to buy a 10 terabyte hard drive or whatever, right? Again, as opposed to thinking about Rob carrying this huge server from Dell.com into the closet, you don't have to do any of that anymore. We can rely on Amazon, who needs their website to be up all the time for our stuff, okay? Now here's the thing that probably will blow your mind. In 2022, which is the most recent year that I have data for, Amazon.com made a cool $220 billion revenue. So people buying stuff, they spent $220 billion. AWS made $80 billion. Okay, so not even close, right? The retail side is still significantly bigger, except it's not. Except it's not, because this side over here is the revenue. This is how much money the company made. Over here for the profit, they made on the retail side negative 2.7 billion. They spent more than they made. So they made 220 billion, but they spent 223 billion to make that money. So you, as an individual, almost no matter who you are, unless maybe you're Elon Musk, you are doing better financially than Amazon.com is because you did not lose what 2.7 billion dollars last year. AWS, on the other hand, made a profit of $23 billion dollars. So it brought in 80, but the actual profit after expenses was 23. So AWS is what is keeping Amazon going. This is a massive part of their business, and I'm going to put another chart up here. This is all of the internet, okay? Everything that's being powered on the internet. I'm not going to draw this perfect for sure, but AWS is roughly 1/3 of all of the servers on the internet. The machine that you're watching this on now, the website that's hosting this video, there's at least a 1 in 3 chance it's running on Amazon. Okay, a slightly smaller percent, it's 22%, I think, is using Microsoft Azure. So Azure is a competitor with AWS. Google has 10%, which is pretty small, GCP, and then everybody else together is about equal to Amazon. So we're using Amazon because it is huge, it pretty much always works, and Amazon is committed to it forever. Okay? Once we get our server up, we're going to have to SSH into it. And if you don't know how the SSH process is, let me draw it real quick. We are going to get your server up just like we had in the previous video there. Your local is over here. And we are going to tunnel in using SSH. So if you haven't used SSH before, that is okay. It stands for Secure Shell. And this is a way to remote into another computer. You're logging into it, and what you see on your screen is going to be this computer. Okay, I'll show you how to do it, not a big deal. We have to have an operating system on this computer because it is a computer, right? Windows or Mac OS or Android or whatever. We are going to use Ubuntu, and I'll talk about this. The reason I'm choosing Ubuntu, and I'll put above that, Linux. Linux is actually broken up into a whole bunch of different distributions. Ubuntu is the one that I use. It's just the one that I know the best. Okay, so we're gonna make a server. You can do it. I promise by the end of this video, it will seem so much less mystified. We're going to use AWS. AWS is the biggest cloud provider on the planet. It is the thing that keeps Amazon at like a $1.5 trillion valuation as of the making of this video. We are going to SSH into that computer. So from your local, whether it's a Windows or a Mac, we're going to SSH into this machine we start up, and we're going to use Ubuntu as our operating system. Okay, let's go get our hands dirty. I have pulled up Amazon, so it's aws.amazon.com, the AWS homepage. If you come up to the top right here, there's sign in to console. This will bring you to the actual AWS part as opposed to that marketing page. Okay, I'm already logged in, so that's why it brings me here. Got to talk about a couple things here quick up front. One, the only way to get to this page is to log in. The only way to log in is to have an account. The only way to have an account is to give them your credit card information. Now, everything that I'm going to show you, I'm going to do my very best to walk you down the free tier eligible path so that you have a good chance of it being free, or you'll know that it's not going to be free. Free tier eligible is not the same thing as free. AWS is a business. They are trying to make money. It is the same as every other cloud provider out there. They all have some free thing, and they're either hoping you stick around long enough to need more and you spend lots of money, or you make a mistake. Whatever the case, I'm not bad-mouthing anybody. That's just the nature of the business. So if it's important to you that this is free, I will walk you through that process, okay? I can't guarantee that it is, and you need to take this part seriously if money is important to you, because I have zero pull with AWS. I will not be able to help you if you get some kind of bill, okay? So we'll talk about pricing. Two, once you get to this page, then you can click on services up here. And if I click on all services, you can scroll down here, and this is absolutely obscene. I cannot believe how much this has grown. I started using AWS in maybe 2012, maybe 2013, so 10 or 11 years. It is mind-blowing from starting with just what we're going to do is EC2. So if I scroll back up to the top, and that is all. So again, if you come here with a ton of experience in the cloud, in AWS, you've got a whole bunch of certifications, way more than I do. but you've never gone through the app process, the only thing we're going to use is EC2. This gives us a server, and that's how it used to work. You had a server and you managed it. You needed a database, you would install the database on your server. Well, now, if we scroll up a hair here, there's DynamoDB, so you can get a NoSQL database. There's RDS, which I suppose is down here in R, which means you can have a dedicated, independent database server. There's S3. These are some of the simplest ones. You get to fancier stuff like data lakes and machine learning libraries and so on, and it's mind-blowing, right? None of that matters for this video, for this deployment process. We are going to do everything on one server. No Lambda functions, no fanciness. We're going to stay right next to the metal and use one service, okay? So that's thing one, the sheer size of Amazon or AWS. Not just that they have tons of servers, but that they have tons of services. We're going to use one service, and that is the EC2 service, okay? Coming over real quick to the pricing, we've got to talk through this just so that you know what you're up against. This is the on-demand pricing, and you can Google EC2 on-demand pricing, and it will bring you here. We'll come right back here in a second. This is the free cloud page. So if you type in AWS free tier, it will bring you to this page or whatever the current page is. If we scroll down a little bit, this is really confusing. AWS is confusing, which again is why this is the longest part of the process. They have 3 different types of offers. They have free trials, 12 months free, and always free. Okay, where do we fall under? Well, you can sort by product categories, and again, it's so confusing because what do you click on here if you're new? As I said, what we are interested in is EC2, and that's this top one here. And I've got 12 months free checked, and that's what this falls under. If you choose always free, they give you a handful of other things. You can get 1 million AWS Lambda requests per month. That's cool, but that's not what we are here for, and that's not going to help us. If you click on trials, they'll give you this other stuff. You can look through it if you would like to. Down at the very bottom, I'm going to go over this fine print here, and I'm going to zoom in because that's the only way to read fine print. Let me find it quick. But it took a minute to find, but here we are. Please listen to these two because there is a little bit of a hoop in here, at least as of the making of this video. The 12 months free, this has been in place for like 7 or 8 years. As far as I know, I've never seen it not available. These free tier offers are only available to new customers, and they're available for 12 months following your AWS sign-up date. So when your 12 months is up, you won't qualify anymore. So if your account is more than 12 months old, you'll either need to find a new email address and start up a new account, or you'll need to be prepared to pay, unless you qualify for the other one. So hold on that thought for a second. The other case is that if your application use exceeds the tiers, so I'm going to show you the free tier one. If you have 2 machines going, that will exceed. If you have one of the extra large machines, that will exceed, and you should expect to pay standard prices, okay? Now, come down a little bit further. Trials, we'll come back to this in a minute, but for trials, these free tier offers are short-time trial offers that start from the time of the first usage begins. Once the trial period expires, you pay standard as you go, okay? So remember this, we will come back to the trial. 12 months free is always there. This might be there, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Let me get back up to the top. The free part for compute on EC2 is 750 hours, okay? Why 750 hours? Let me get the calculator open here. Wow, that is a big calculator. If we do 31 days, which is the longest month, times 24 hours a day, that's 744 hours per month. So we get a max total of 750 hours, which is roughly 1 server for an entire month, and that's free for 12 months. If you add a second server, or you have a bigger instance than they will allow, or whatever, then you're going to end up getting charged, okay? And they break down here which are the free ones and what you can do. We'll look at those here in a second, okay? Come over to on-demand. If you are not in the free area or you're just wondering how it works, the AWS region you can choose, but it doesn't make any difference. Linux is what we're going to use. We're not going to use Windows. That won't work for us. If we scroll down here, actually, let's come back over to free tier. T4G small qualifies, as does T3 micro. So T4G small is this one right here. it is 1 cent or 1.5 cent roughly per hour. This is the on-demand hourly rate. So if I take 744 and multiply it times 0.06, it is roughly $12.50 a month in dollars. Okay, if we take that same thing and we multiply it times, I don't know, 8 hours, it's 13.5 cents for half a day, for an 8-hour day. Okay, it's 40 cents for a full day. So that is what you are up against in terms of the pricing. Please remember, if you're just doing this as an exercise, shut it down when you're done. But we're going to go down this path. It will be free so long as you qualify. You need to do your research because I'm going to leave you there. Okay, you've got a good chance of it being free if you're going down the free tier road, but you need to make sure that you know what you're doing. Okay, so that's pricing. And that's what we're going to do is we're going to focus on EC2. So on this page, back on the console here, in the search bar, just because I don't know what you're looking at, type in EC2 and that will bring it up here at the top. Click on EC2 and that will drop you on the Elastic Cloud Computing page. And there are a couple different ways. You can click on this orange button, Launch Instance, that will skip you straight there. Again, I don't know what you're looking at. There's instances up at the top here. And then over on the left-hand side, there's instances. You can click on either one of these, and this will drop you on the instances page, and the instance is a server, right? This is one of your virtual machines that you've got running on Amazon or AWS, okay? If you come up now to the orange button and click on Launch Instances, this will take us through the wizard. And I'll take you through a piece at a time here. The first thing is a name and a tag, and this is just admin. You don't have to put anything in here. It can be really useful if you've got a whole bunch of machines running. I'm going to put down JavaScript deploy server. This is, again, purely for you. The system doesn't care what you put there. That's all I'm going to put. Okay. This isn't an AWS overview. We're trying to stick to as simple as possible. So you can add additional tags, but we're not going to talk about that. You next choose the operating system. And if you want to click here, you can look through all the different OS images they have. The most obvious ones are right here, or I should say the most common ones. We are going to use Ubuntu. And the reason we're going to use this is like AWS. I've been using Ubuntu since I think 2006. Right now, they're on version 22.04. And the way Ubuntu works, if you didn't know this, the 22 is for the year, so 2022, and the 04 is for April. The stable release for Ubuntu is always on an even year in April. They will come out with an experimental version every 6 months after that. So there's going to be a 22.10, and then there'd be a 23.04 and a 23.10, and then the next stable release would be 24.04. So this is the most recent stable release, would be 2022 in April. Like I said, I think my first Ubuntu was 06.04, so it's just what I know. If you are a Red Hat person or a SUSE person or whatever else you want to chase down, you can use that, but please just make note that I am going to use Ubuntu and you're going to have a different process. The installation directories are going to be different, the package managers are going to be different, etc. Okay? So click on this and it says free tier eligible. We want to see those. Those are our friendly terms here. Free tier eligible, you can choose 2004 or 2204, but make sure free tier eligible is chosen there. And then under architecture, this is where it's going to get confusing again, that the free trial versus free tier. There are two architectures. There's x86, and this is the historically standard processor. This is what has been in use for decades. ARM is new. These are more power efficient, okay? There are two options here, and it's important to pay attention for just a sec for the free part. If you choose x86, you should see a free tier eligible option, and that's the T2 Micro. So back over here, scroll down, T2 Micro is right here. It might be different based on your region, but that's what it is for me. There isn't another one for me. If you choose ARM, we'll have totally different instance types. So T2 Micro is not available for ARM because it's an x86 machine. If I open this up, for T4G, I have free trial available. So if I click on that, let's hop back over here. They didn't really tell us this. This is supposed to be 12 months free for a T4G small. what's going on here? Well, I have a website pulled up, Amazon EC2 T4G instances. This might not be the case when you are here, but the free trial, it says try Amazon EC2 T4G small instances. They're powered by Graviton 2 processors, so their version of ARM processors, for up to 750 hours a month until the last day of 2023. So the way that I'm reading this is free for anybody, one server, 750 hours a month until the end of 2023. So I am going to use this one because it will be free to more people. Please stay on top of this because the terms might change. You might have free trial, you might have a free tier, whatever it is. I'm going to use free trial T4G small with the ARM architecture, okay? Now for the key pair login, this is really important. You have to keep this file and you need to know where it is because this is the only way to log into your machine up front. You can change it later on if you want to, but I'm going to create a new key pair. This is the name of the file, and I'm going to call it JavaScript deploy key. And looks like I've already made one with that name just when I was practicing. So let's do JavaScript deploy key, one word. Okay, so this is going to be this will be my file name. The key pair type should be RSA. That's just the encryption that it's gonna use, and then the PEM will be the file format. Leave it as PEM. This is going to create a ridiculous looking string, like that's going to be 30 lines long. It's the cryptographic information so that we can log in from our side to their side securely. So that file, do not share it with anybody, do not open it, and do not lose it or you'll have to start over. Okay? For the key pair name, it should automatically fill out whatever you just created. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. For network settings, we're going to leave everything here as is. The only thing to note is that the security group, I am going to leave these unchecked. If you want to, you can check them because we're going to have to deal with them, but I want to show you how. This was the firewall part that I had mentioned in the video. And then you can also change the IP address so that SSH traffic is allowed from a particular place, maybe your specific IP, maybe you have a subnet or a cedar block or something. I'm just going to leave it to anywhere. Okay, you have to have the key to get in anyway, so that's fine. Come back down a little bit further here. Configure storage. It says right here, you get up to 30 gigabytes of EBS SSD. It's set at 8. You can bump it up to 30. 8 is more than enough unless you have an odd situation. Like you're going to load up a database and you've got a massive database. If you have large files, you should be using S3, but we're not going to talk about S3. So if you need to bump this up, you can. Just keep an eye on how much AWS is charging you. Okay? With that, we're going to click Launch Instance, and it will take a second to fire up. And it says it's successfully initiated. Come down to the bottom right here, View All Instances. And it is already running. I mean, that is absolutely mind-blowing to me that, as I said in the previous video, in the old days, I had to go to Dell.com or wherever and actually price out and pick the machine components. They shipped it. It took me 2 days to install everything. This took about, we'll say 5 seconds or so. Okay, and you can click on this and it will give you details down below. A lot of this is interesting AWS type stuff or virtual machine. If you're into that, this is interesting maybe. The public IP address is the only thing that we're going to talk about. We just need to make sure that it is running and that you can get to the public IP address here. Okay? It will also say initializing for the status check. That doesn't really, it's just going to do some security and status so that it can keep us up to date. What we want to do now though is connect to it. Okay? And to connect to it, again, if you click on this, up in the top right hand, there is a connect box. And remember this, because this is your friend. If you click on that, that will bring you to this page. And it might start you off in the EC2 Instance Connect tab. This is an in-browser thing. I do not like it. You are a developer. You use Create React App or Redux Toolkit Next, whatever. You're used to using NPM and Node.js. The SSH client is the terminal process, so this is what you should be using, in my opinion. Okay? We need an SSH client. I am on my PC here for a reason, because on a Mac, you just are going to do everything here from the terminal. SSH is a native terminal command or a Linux command. I'm going to use PowerShell on my Windows machine, and you should be using it on your Windows computer too, if that's what you're on. Locate your private key file. Okay, so I am going to open up the terminal, and I should say this is the PowerShell because PowerShell is going to have these commands. The regular command prompt is not going to. Let me zoom in a little bit here. My key went to my downloads folder. Now you can go and move it around with Finder or with File Explorer, whatever you want. I'm going to do it inside the terminal just because hopefully you're familiar with this. I'm going to make a directory called keys inside of my home directory. Okay? You don't have to put it here. You can put it wherever you want. You just need to remember where your keys are at because you won't be able to get back into your server without them. Okay? I am going to move, so MV. In my folder here, I've got my downloads folder, and then I have my JavaScript deploy key.pem. I'm going to move that into this folder. So the dot there signifies take this file and move it into this folder. Okay? You can do that by dragging and dropping. Whatever you prefer is just fine. I'm going to go into my keys folder and type ls, and I goofed up. I moved it into my, my home directory, so that's a mistake. I have gone back to my home directory, and I am going to now move it into keys. There we go. So now it is inside of my keys folder. If I type ls, there it is. Okay? So this is the folder where my stuff is at. You should be where you want to keep your keys at. They should absolutely not be accessible to anybody. Don't ever share them because it is root access, sudo access to your computer. Okay? If we come back over here to the SSH client, we have located our private key. We've got the key that they are talking about. You need to run this command on a Mac probably, and you'll probably need to sudo it because the command or the key will not come through with the appropriate permissions. If you used PowerShell, it should already have the right permissions. Okay, so you shouldn't need to do anything. But on a Mac, you will need to change the chmod the permissions to 400, which means the owner can read it, and that's it, and nobody else can do anything. Lastly, connect to it with this DNS. They give us the command here. So this is why I said remember this page, because this is the command that we are going to run. Okay? So copy this command, come back over here in the directory where your keys are at, paste that command in, and hit enter. And the Linux or the terminal is going to give you a warning. Hey, I've never been here before. Are you sure you want to go here? This is the SHA fingerprint. You could go and check and make sure that this is your AWS machine. The first time you connect to a new place, this is always going to happen. So I'm going to say yes. And it says it will permanently add, where did that go? It will permanently add that host so you won't get that warning again. If you do and you think you're connecting to the same place, that's when maybe you need to check it out. Okay? Now, I hope this is exciting to you because it's always exciting to me. We are looking at a brand spanking new Linux machine that we have the power to do anything with. We can create anything. We can build anything. This is always awesome. The very first thing we're going to do is run sudo apt update. This is the Ubuntu command to say, hey, go out and patch everything. We don't know when AWS started up this virtual machine. We don't know if there's anything missing. So this will get us the updates. Now, when I have done this in the past, sometimes during this initial phase, the machine will become corrupt because a connection issue happens or whatever. When this is done, go ahead and run sudo apt upgrade. That will fetch upgraded packages as opposed to updating them. And it looks like I've got 125, so go ahead and run that. It will ask, do you want to use up a little bit of extra space? The answer to that, of course, is yes. While this is running, again, it may be that your machine just simply doesn't finish and you can't connect. It happened to me, and I was tempted to keep it in, but the video needed to be remade just so that you can see that happens to me. I've been using AWS like almost on a daily basis for the past 5 or 6 years, and to some degree or another going back 10 years. I still run into bumps with the deployment process. It is not a you problem. It is a normal person problem, of which I'm including myself in a very normal person that has errors. Okay? The great thing about AWS is this. If we come back over to the console while that's upgrading, I'm going to go back a page. If you run into an issue, this is my server, the JavaScript deploy server.
you can come up here to instance state and you can terminate the instance. Now, I'm not going to do that because mine is running okay right now, but that will kill the box. They won't charge you anymore because it's terminated. In fact, if you just stop it, that is usually enough. They won't charge you for that anymore. But if I terminate it, they won't charge me anymore, and I can start up a new one, go through the exact same process. Okay? So it's at 99%. I'm going to show you how that would work. I'm not going to terminate this because I don't want to have to wait for all that again. But let's say I terminated it, right? You ran into an issue. Rob, your video didn't work for me. Okay, just terminate your instance, launch a new one. I'm going to go through this really fast here. The name and tag is new, deploy server. Going to choose Ubuntu. I am going to leave it on 2204 because that's free tier eligible. Switch the architecture over to ARM. Come down here, and under the instance type, I'm going to choose a T4G small because that's free tier eligible. The key pair login. I clicked the same one. I didn't open up the dropdown because I have a bunch of keys that the internet doesn't need to see. I'm going to leave the security group as is, going to leave the storage as is, and I'm going to launch that instance, and it is already up. So if I come back over to the instances, we have our new deploy server ready to go. You can click on that button, you can click on connect, and you can copy this same command and run it in the exact same directory because that's where the keys are at. I use the same keys. Real quick, you may get this screen. In fact, you almost certainly will. And this is just letting you know that, hey, the virtual machine that you are running should be running this kernel and is running this one. You need to restart the system to make sure that everything is okay. So hit OK. What services should be restarted? These are just a bunch of Linux processes. These don't matter because we're about to restart the computer anyway. So just hit OK. And mine is now finished. As it said, you need to restart for the kernel issue. So I'm going to type sudo reboot, and the machine will restart. Okay? And if I hit the up arrow to run that same connect command, it'll take like 10, 15 seconds because the computer is rebooting. All right? While that's running, or while we're waiting for it to come back up, I'm going to open up a new PowerShell, and I'm going to paste in the new connect command. So this is the machine that I just fired up. Right? We get this warning again. Hey, are you sure you want to connect? Yes. And I am not in the correct folder. I was in my local folder here, in my user folder. I'm going to go into keys, run the same command, and I'm in the other computer now. So this one, and it finally connected. This is the one that I've run all the updates on. This is the other one that I just started up. Okay? I'm going to exit this. I'm going to come back over to AWS, and I'm going to shut down the new one because I don't want to pay for it. So I'm going to choose Terminate Instance. And that is just incredible. Again, I didn't have to go to Dell.com. Didn't have to install CPUs and graphics cards and Windows Server or Linux and go find all this stuff. That is so awesome. I'm sorry, just a little blast from the past for me there. Okay, so let's clear this out. This is the new one that I just terminated. We'll keep this open. We have a server with a public IP address. Now, in order to reach it from the rest of the world, we can try and ping it. So if we come back over here on our JavaScript deploy server, I want you to grab the public IP address, so copy it however you want to. And in a different window, so this is the machine itself. We're going to go to a different window. I'm going to do ping. Oops. I'm going to do ping, and I'm going to drop in the IP address. This is going to try and hit our server, and it's going to time out because the firewall has closed off everything except for SSH. So we're going to cancel this, Control C. We're going to come over here, and this is the part I said where you could check those allow HTTP and HTTPS. Well, with your server clicked down at the bottom here, I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. If you click on the security tab, it will show you the security group for this particular computer. If you click on that, it will show you the inbound rules. And the inbound rules that we have, the SSH port is open, which is port 22, and it's open up to everywhere. We want the HTTP ports to be open so that someone can come on 80 and on 443. So let's click Edit Inbound Rules right here. This will open this dialog up. Click Add Rule. And you can put them in yourself. They have them already here. If I punch in HTTP, it shows me those options. Click on it, and it's TCP and 80. I'm going to choose anywhere. Add another rule. This time we'll do HTTPS. And again, I'm going to choose anywhere so that the whole internet can get to this server on port 80 and port 443. Click Save Rules. And now the machine is accessible. Those ports are accessible. So if we come back over here and try and ping it again with 32 bytes of data, it still times out. How come? Well, because we don't have a web server. Nobody is listening on those ports. So even though the firewall is open, we can't actually get there. Okay? So the next thing now is going to be to get our domain up and running, connect it, and then we'll come back and get the web server going.